Breastfeeding has been probably one of the most challenging and rewarding experiences I've had since I've had my baby Noah. It's always been something I've wanted to do. It's always been something that's very important to me for health reasons, and I was very excited to be able to share this with my baby. I was determined to make it work, and it was probably the most exciting part for me initially about having the baby. I never anticipated something that seemed so natural and something that should be quite easy, you would think, to be as difficult as it was. Like most people, I took some antenatal classes, and they provided a sufficient amount of information from a breastfeeding perspective, but putting that into practice when you have a hungry, fussy, cranky baby in front of you is a completely different situation. I struggled quite a bit in the beginning. I had a little bit of pain, and I had this horrible feeling that maybe he wasn't getting enough milk. I wish I had tapped into that new mommy intuition initially, but I waited a couple weeks because I was getting conflicting information from people around me. Different healthcare professionals were saying it was okay. I was getting advice from my mom, my mother-in-law, the internet, and I was so exhausted that I waited until about the 3rd or 4th week postpartum until I contacted a professional lactation consultant. Had I known what I know today, I would have contacted Heidi in the 1st or 2nd week, because it probably would have made a world of difference for those first couple weeks of our experience. Probably would have been a lot more enjoyable rather than a bit of a stressful situation for us. However, contacting Heidi was the best thing we did. She was immediately able to identify the issues around my milk supply and a latching issue. She was able to put a treatment plan in place that allowed us to completely turn the experience around. And she offered a lot of confidence and reassurance that I was doing the right thing, which enabled me to keep persevering through the challenges and to eventually be able to really enjoy the experience with my baby. I think breastfeeding is probably one of the most amazing things you can do as a new mom, so why wouldn't you get the best source of information you can for supporting you through the experience? I now have a 5-month-old healthy, happy baby boy who's a little chunky because he eats all the time now, and I wouldn't have given up this experience for anything in the world. Something that was the most stressful part of our day is now the most enjoyable. Well, we had a little bit of a latching issue, which I didn't realize he wasn't latching on as it was more of a shallow latch, so it was a little bit of pain, and so he wasn't getting enough milk out initially. But also my supply was a little low, and I don't know what started that. Maybe it was the latching issue, but I just had a feeling that he wasn't getting enough milk, and he wasn't. So we were able to put something in place where I started pumping and following a little bit more of a rigid feeding schedule that Heidi put in place for me, and we upped my supply quite quickly. I think because I waited until the 3rd or 4th week to reach out for some professional support, had I done it a little bit sooner, I probably wouldn't have had to pump as much. Because I waited a little bit longer, I had to really up the supply at that point. So I was pumping a bit more than a normal person probably would in order to increase the milk supply. So I was pumping a few times a day after each of the feeds. So I would feed the baby and then pump, and it was a bit exhausting, and it's a little bit different. At first I didn't know how to use the pump, so it was helpful that I was able to get the support to do that correctly, because at first I wasn't doing it correctly. And then you just kind of get the hang of it, and then it became part of our everyday routine until we got it. I do occasionally. I would suggest renting the hospital version one at first, because you can get that at some of the pharmacies, and it's just so efficient. You can pump so quickly and get everything out in like 15-20 minutes, when some of the other pumps take a lot longer, so it's a lot easier. But today we still do when I want to bottle feed him, or I just want to store some milk in the freezer in case we need it later for any reason. So I do occasionally pump, but not regularly every day. I don't need to anymore.